His body is the void itself. His voice is a screaming silence in the dark. His face a failure of darkness. And he who sees him forever goes into the darkness of non-being. Man, that is a seriously intense image to start with, right? Welcome to this explainer. We're diving headfirst into some deeply layered, highly complex, esoteric source material today. Okay, let's get right into it. Today, we're exploring the ruler of the Qlipha Satariel, an entity known in occult texts as Lucifuge Rofocale. This material takes us way deep into the traditions of the Qliphoth. If you're familiar, that's the dark counterpart to the Kabbalistic tree of life, sitting over in the realm of Sitra Achra. I'll be your guide as we systematically break down exactly what the sources have to say about this incredibly formidable figure.
Here is our roadmap for this descent. First, the Lord of Satariel. Second, his archetype and qualities. Third, what he embodies. Fourth, interaction and invocation. And finally, the magical initiation.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Lord of Satariel, ruler of the dark.
So, the sources root his entire domain in a concept called nocturnism. Essentially, nocturnism is the specific practice of shadow magic, and it's anchored completely in the dark, light-absorbing energies of the Qlipha Satariel. Now, it's absolutely crucial to grasp that this isn't just about, turning off the lights or a mere absence of light. In this framework, we are talking about an active, hungry, absorbing darkness. So who exactly is the ruler of this absorbing darkness? Well, what's really fascinating about his many titles is the massive paradox they present. The texts tell us he is the head of Infernal Pacts and the Liberator of Darkness. He's the Lord of Excess. But wait, look at that fourth point. He is also an occult librarian. Really? He is considered an entity of profound intellect and erudition, known as the God of Darkness and the Illuminating Dark. It's this wild, highly complex blend of raw power and scholarly occult knowledge.
Moving right along to Section 2, Archetype and Qualities, the Evening Star.
Now the sources draw a fascinating, direct comparison here that you really have to see. You've likely heard of Lucifer, right? The light bringer, represented as the morning star rising in the east. Well, Lucifuge Rofocale is his exact mirror, the evening star rising in the west. He is literally the light absorber. So while Lucifer emanates light, Lucifuge acts like a massive cosmic black hole. He conceals, he shelters, and he consumes the light. He isn't fleeing from illumination at all. He is actively devouring it.
And we can actually see how this archetype is anchored in real ritual practice. The source material maps out these intricate formulas and sigils for the Qliphothoric rulers on the Tree of Death. Take a look at point number 8. It specifically lists the activation formula for Satariel and Lucifuge Rofocale. These aren't just abstract ideas floating around. For the practitioners of this path, these formulas are the literal phonetic keys used to dial into his highly specific frequency.
Let's transition into Section 3. What Lucifuge embodies, the devouring force.
The texts offer a very stark perspective on his influence, and I quote, "I curse you with my blessings and will curse you by fulfilling your desires. I will rob you of your belief that your desires can ever be fulfilled." Wow. I mean, that perfectly captures his crushing, inescapable nature, doesn't it? In this tradition, his principle is to completely dissolve the comforting illusions of creation. He tears down what you think you want, just to expose a much harsher, unvarnished reality underneath. And that destruction extends into some very real, tangible concepts. It starts with the destruction of idols, shattering false beliefs and cosmic dogmas. But then it branches out into hard, modern sciences. We're talking space and atomic physics. It touches on worldly structures like power, politics, and manipulation. The sources say he embodies death and disease, yes, but also courage and absolute victory. It is a sweeping, elemental influence that impacts both the macrocosm of the universe and the microcosm of human society.
Up next is Section 4, Interaction and Invocation, Calling the Dark.
If someone actually wants to interact with this entity, the sources provide very specific instructions for offerings. Physical, material offerings include mirror shards, skulls, magnets, raven feathers, dark wine, and raw meat. These items align heavily with his dark Saturnian energy. But here's the catch. The psycho-mental offerings are just as vital, if not more so. A practitioner must actively cultivate a state of alienation, profound loneliness, and melancholy. The text beautifully calls this the gloom of the soul. Basically, you have to align your internal mental state perfectly with his absorbing darkness.
So why in the world would someone subject themselves to that? What are the actual reasons for invoking him? Well, there's a fascinating duality going on here. On one hand, practitioners invoke him for highly material, real-world gains, attaining wealth, respect, fame, learning sciences, or even exacting revenge and punishment. But on the exact opposite hand, they also invoke him for profound mental clarity, uncovering stupidity, piercing through worldly illusions, and initiating a deep, transformative spiritual self-discovery.
Let's break down how this actually builds in practice. The ritual of invocation outlined in the texts is intensely immersive. First, the practitioner must sit in total, absolute darkness. Second, they trace a flaming trident symbol in the air. Third, they chant a highly specific mantra, starting with the evocative words Zazazazas. And fourth, they visualize a growing black sphere just above their head, symbolizing his dark star.
And what happens next? Well, according to the texts, his manifested form isn't some physical body you can just see with your eyes. No, it's described as a dark presence that devours all the remaining light in the room. When this happens, the practitioner's consciousness shifts entirely. They move away from physical sight straight into pure psychic feeling. The physical vessel is basically left behind, and the darkness itself becomes a living, communicating entity that merges directly with the practitioner's mind.
Which brings us to Section 5, the magical initiation, the endgame.
Looking at all this intense material, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the ultimate purpose of embracing this level of darkness? Why intentionally subject oneself to that gloom of the soul and the total dissolution of light we just talked about? The answer lies in his specific role as the psychopomp. You see, Lucifuge serves as the ultimate guide for the shadow self. In this whole Qliphothic framework, the physical body and the rational mind are seen as limitations, basically a cage. Lucifuge's purpose is to push the practitioner's spirit far beyond that physical vessel, leading them safely through the darkest layers of Sitra Achra toward the absolute deepest threshold, Thaumiel. The terror, the isolation, the crushing darkness, they aren't punishments at all. They are the required tools of a dark spiritual alchemy designed specifically to break the mind's limits and achieve a profound acausal enlightenment.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought to take away from these sources. If true esoteric liberation, at least in this tradition, requires the absolute, total absorption of your internal light and the complete shattering of your comfortable, ordered reality, are you prepared to step entirely into the void? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating, shadowed corner of esoteric philosophy with me today. I hope this explainer helped illuminate the dark even just a little bit. Catch you next time.